Welcome to the enchanting world of the Never Cross a Witch Bitch podcast. Prepare to be captivated as we embark on a thrilling journey into the realm of spirituality with our remarkable team of a distinctive energy mixture. Leading the way is Mitch Garlington, a gifted gay male witch, touring stage medium, and psychic tarot card reader. With a background in the competitive corporate world and experience as a Cher impersonator, Mitch brings a fresh and unique perspective to our discussions. Next, we have Lucy Locke, a former fundamentalist Christian missionary turned sex shop manager turned professional dog groomer turned psychic medium, trance channeler, and tarot card reader. Her incredible transformation into the spiritual world is truly inspiring. And last, but certainly not least, we have Carly Batten, a second-generation practicing pagan, intuitive oracle card reader, and spiritual mother to many. Carly brings a grounded approach and simple understanding to the complexities of spiritual living. Together, we form an unstoppable podcast as we delve into all things spiritual and the journey of life. Our mission is crystal clear: to spread the message that spirit embraces all and that each of us is on a spiritual path, whether we realize it or not. So buckle up and get ready for an exhilarating adventure with the Never Cross a Witch Bitch podcast. Please note that all ideas discussed and presented in this podcast are the personal opinions of the individual podcasters and do not necessarily reflect the views of each other or the viewers. Hi, y'all.
Hello.
We're finally back. I guess if you're watching this way later in life, you won't even notice the difference, but the people that watch it week to week have realized we haven't been around for a couple of weeks due to this.
But lots of people are caught up
down here.
down here, up there, wherever he is in the screen of things.
You'll notice
Mr.
his background is
Garlington.
new.
Sorry, guys.
Muggle's life got a bit of a hold, didn't it, really? So
It did. I had to move house, but we were all good now, so we're all
And then you
back
had no internet.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all
You
back
promised
together
us we'd
now.
get together. Then the internet, which was just a cord that was sitting there that needed to be plugged in all week, wasn't it?
Basically, right.
I reckon
Yeah,
he did that on purpose. I think that's what he did.
trust me,
Did it
I
on purpose?
I was pissed off. Well, so was Paul, actually, because the guy came out. We had to wait from Monday to Friday. The guy came out and he just plugged it in. And he's like, "That's what you had to do." They could have told us on the phone. So yeah,
That's what Colin said. Yeah, he said, "Why didn't?" Yeah, and you said that too. Yeah, why didn't they just talk you through some basic steps to see if before they send someone out and make you wait all that time? Yeah.
So I think Spirit just needed me to have a bit of off-grid time, just to real ground and sort of get some roots before
But
the
Paul
madness.
had to be involved in that, poor guy.
Yeah,
to
bless
watch
him.
TV.
He had no TV all week, so that was like torture for him, I can tell you.
There with a sore head.
Yeah, for anyone out there that wants to kidnap and torture Paul, just take away
Him
the
in a room
TV.
with no TV.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Bless him.
So we're on episode 20. What was it? We just said the
2.
number and it just
22.
Let's say
I
22.
think.
I'm not sure, but
Okay. Apologies if it's 23 and we're saying it's 22. We've really confused you now. So we've not been here for 2 weeks. Now we're telling you it's the wrong episode. Hurrah.
Exactly. But we were going to discuss a little bit today about being spiritual and what does that entail, and not being, I think we talked about it a little bit before, but not being an asshole kind of thing.
yeah, the values,
I
isn't it,
think
really?
it's
The value systems
values.
of what of being spiritual is, because it's been quite interesting, especially with the whole trans person thing coming out. I didn't follow it that much because my personal belief is just I love all people, and I love trans people, and I have loads of trans friends, and
Well,
I
did
actually
follow
respect
it.
them. Yeah, I respect them for their bravery. So I didn't follow it, and I'm sorry I didn't follow it, but Mitch did. So
I
yeah.
did. And it pissed me off big time because I've got a lot of trans friends and clients as well. And I know that there are people on this podcast that listen that also have family members that are going through.
I think we have. I think actually we have some people
Yeah.
that have transitioned or are transitioning listening. Yeah.
Definitely. I know of at least a couple. And it just pisses me off because I just think, in this day and age, this shouldn't even be a subject matter. This shouldn't be a thing. People should be allowed to be who they are. And I think the reason we got onto this subject as well is because There was a medium that I came across up north. I'm not going to name the person. They're a fantastic medium. Their connection, their evidence with spirit, great, lovely. But they're also very transphobic. And when you're serving and working from spirit, and this is what we were talking about, you know, are you spiritual off camera as well as on camera? Because, you know, I just find that very confusing that you would serve and work for spirit, which is all about love, it's all about holding space and really just celebrating the essence of a person. Essentially, that's what a big chunk of mediumship is. But then like your own human experience is to sort of sabotage and to sort of pull that apart. I don't understand why that would trigger or be a problem for somebody else. If that's their journey, let them go on their journey. Why is that a thing, you know? I just it really confuses me. It really confuses me.
It does me too.
It's well, I mean, we were talking about this obviously before we came on, and you know, things like transgender and homosexuality has been around. Funny enough, when we were talking earlier, we were talking earlier on. I had a little bit of the wonderful world of Google. You know, the Romans and the Greeks were openly transgender, openly gay, quite happily had open relationships, and it
I think
wasn't
this is why I feel
actually.
really drawn to the Roman baths, maybe like
Yeah. Well, you've seen all sort of the Spartacus and Gladiator films and all that, and it's all very sparsely dressed.
I was thinking
Yeah,
more of the
probably.
orgies, but like carry on.
Well, yeah, no. Well, they normally happen in the Roman baths. That's what I'm saying. It's normally, you know, it's all a bit flashy, bit of flesh. But they were just, yeah. I mean, this has been, you know, it's been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. And actually, if you follow history, it wasn't until you get to Christianity coming across and the medieval Europe. It was medieval Europe and the medieval times that really started changing things. And I think, whilst I know, Lucy, you were saying about, you quoted about the eunuchs, I think reading into it, if you read past it, on obviously my personal opinion, I'm probably going to get shot down in flames by a historian. But again, it's human beings changing their opinions. So you have like an individual Christian priest coming in who doesn't like or feels uncomfortable with his sexuality or the idea of a single sex relationship. And he has put his implant into his preaching, which has then gone on down the years.
Yeah,
So
which is an
isn't that
abuse of power,
interesting?
isn't it, really?
Yeah. So when reading into it, and I was having, as I say, I was having a little look, thinking, well, hang on a minute, because we were talking about the Hellfire clubs and we were talking about the pirates and things like that. And I thought, I swear, the Romans and the Greeks had very open relationships about it. And I thought, well, when did this all change? When did human beings start being fed that it's wrong? And it seems to be around medieval Europe. So around the medieval times. So you're looking sort of, you know, it's probably the 11th century, anywhere between the 10th and the 11th century, things started changing, and that would have been input from people in higher status, and then humans have then picked that up, you know. But it's actually, when you look at it, it seems, especially with the pirates, it's a natural cause of events, isn't it? And the Romans and the Greeks. So why is you know, it makes you not understand it even more, how people are reacting in modern society when more people are looking into being more open and being more looking at the person for the person and not their gender or their sexuality or their color or their yeah, exactly. Seems to be, why is it happening more? Why is it happening more?
It just
It
seems
shouldn't be, should
confusing.
it?
Yeah, and it's like, you know, you see all these like retreats and workshops about like, you know, tap into your spirituality, become enlightened, and you know, that's all well and good. It has its place, but the basics, it's just like treat the person as you want to be treated, surely, you know.
Mm,
Probably that is the
mm,
baseline of any real spirituality. And I'm seeing this a lot more, and we've talked about this before, of how like there are lots of little groups and cliques where they are out in the mainstream sort of public doing, you know, service for supposedly spirit, and yes, they are, and they're doing a reasonably good job, but then themselves as a person, once that sort of time with spirit is done, they're just a nasty person. And it's like, are you really representing what true spirituality is, I guess? And I know they all have a human side. And, like me and Lucy will joke about certain things, little like bits, but we would never put that out publicly. And there's a difference between, I think, having a bit of a private joke about something, but not necessarily taking it too seriously. But these people like genuinely don't like trans, they don't like sort of, people of darker skin or whatever. And it's like, why? There's room for everybody. We all vibrate on that frequency of love, Why is there such a problem? I mean, like, Carly, you said a really good thing. You said, like, with dogs, they're all different colours, but they're all bloody dogs, aren't they? So, and I liked that because I thought that was a really cool quote.
Yeah, well, that was because we were talking about children seeing the person and not seeing the person inside and not seeing the shell on the outside,
almost, isn't it?
Yeah. So and we were talking about Johnny and and my poor son, bless him, he was 3 years old, and we were visiting my dad in London. And Castle Combe, there's not many Indians living in Castle Combe, or people with different coloured skin living in Castle Combe. And he was absolutely gobsmacked by these little Indian children walking down the road past my dad's gate. And he was like, Mummy, why have they got different coloured skin? And when they obviously I then said to him, well, they're just like, we've all got different coloured skin, but we're all the same on the inside, love. It's like dogs, I said, lucky enough at the time my dad had a German Shepherd. So we had a Springer Spaniel, and I said, well, look at Maddie and Gemma. One's a German Shepherd, one's a Springer Spaniel. They're still both dogs. He was like, oh yeah. That's what it is, isn't it? I mean, you wouldn't sit there and go, I mean, we might have preference in breeds in dogs. I was going to say, some of us like German Shepherds, some of us like Jack Russells, but we don't sit there and go, oh, I'm not having that because it's a German Shepherd.
Sometimes I do, but
yeah, but there probably are people that do, aren't there? So
there are probably people that do. Yes,
no,
there are.
I love all dogs, but I'm like, oh, I wouldn't ever own a German Shepherd.
What's your take?
You would know. You would know.
Yeah, I think Carly is completely correct. A lot of this stuff, especially coming with the gay and the trans issue, it started in the biblical, not the Bible times, but when the Bible was started to be written.
Transcripted,
which was not. So I was quickly looking up something because I wanted to get my facts straight. If we're going to dive into this, if we're going to dive into this, I want to get it straight because there is an actual documentary, and I don't know. Oh, it has been made, it says. Oh, that's excellent. I'd like to see it because years ago they were trying to get the money. Does that make sense to make this documentary? It's called 1946, The Mistranslation That Shifted Culture, right? And I'm going to read it straight from Google so I don't get it wrong. The documentary examines how a mistranslation of 1 Corinthians 6:9 in 1946 fueled the Christian anti-gay movement. Okay, so in the Old Testament, they give thousands of laws, okay? And we break them all the time. We shouldn't be having two different types of cloth even touching our body.
Oh.
Okay, that goes along right hand in hand with you shouldn't eat a pig.
Oh.
Or a hook, like then
I am guilty.
It goes hand in hand with a man should not lie with it. Oh, I eat pig all the time. I've got this is probably made from like 4 different types of cloths. It's just cheap. Does that make sense? My underwear is a different type of cloth. I'm wearing my slippers that I bought from Temu. I don't even know what kind of cloth that is. So I'm sitting here breaking every spiritual rule there is right now. And
with a bacon sandwich.
Exactly. I like a bit of bacon and pork roast and stuff like that. So yesterday we just celebrated Easter. What's the main thing of Easter? Ham. I don't know about here, but in Canada it's ham. Everyone bakes a ham, right? And then goes with that man shall not lie with another man. Does that make sense? And so, but there's thousands of them. If we have our period, Okay, if we're going to follow these rules of the Old Testament, if I get my period, I should be sitting in a pot in a separate room from everyone else for 7 fucking days.
Oh God.
And so that my unclean body, does that make sense? Doesn't, these rules were made to help society, in a society that didn't have much for cleanliness. Does that make sense?
Oh, I
There might
suppose,
have
yeah,
been,
I can
so
sort of understand a bit of
yeah,
it.
so there was like pig stuff, like there might have been some sort of swine flu. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We don't know, but there's obviously
No.
practical
Yeah, they had their
reasons
place
why.
at the time, didn't they? Sort of thing. Yeah.
100%. And so we took it, that means that's spiritual. In the New Testament, okay, so the New Testament is so the Old Testament is like the old covenant with God, okay? You sacrificed goats and lambs and spread the blood on your doors to make that no evil came to you. It's very witchcrafty in a way, the way they
Ooh.
Oh, I
lived
was
in the
going to
Old
say, that all
Testament.
sounds very familiar, doesn't
You know,
it?
I did that this morning in my new home. Like, to the neighbours.
Slaughtered the goat and
I didn't really.
oh,
all the neighbours out twitching the curtains.
exactly.
Down the road. Oh, always one of them goat killers.
Oh, yeah. I just so like, yeah, it's very, very, very dark how they, how they worshipped God. And God kind of made it with Jesus that was the last sacrifice. You don't have to sacrifice anymore. Does that make sense? Kind of thing. So the New Testament is the new covenant, the new promise with God. Nowhere in the New Testament does it mention homosexuality until 1946.
Interesting.
Okay. So what I know about this, they were translating it, and the actual translation, if you went back to Hebrew, was about men sleeping with slave boys.
Ah,
Oh, so children. I remember you saying about
pedophilia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but they put it as homosexual, and this one guy, that was translating, he was actually a homosexual that was secretive. Does that make sense? But he was on the translation team, was like, you cannot put that in there. You cannot put it that it's homosexuals. You are going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of homosexuals killed, beaten. Like, it will give an excuse for the Christian community to. And they did it anyway. And it wasn't the original translation.
So sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
I find
Like
it sad and quite confusing as well. Go on.
Yeah. And like, to me, like, I see these kind of political things happening right now in the world. Do you know what I'm saying? And these people that are claiming to be these spiritual people, Christian or in the spiritual realm, absolutely hating minority groups, absolutely making it that, like, Jesus wasn't a white man. Okay? Jesus was born in the Middle East. He's not the blonde hair, blue-eyed thing that we see on the stained glass windows, okay? He is going to look like your typical Middle Eastern man. And they also say that in the Bible, it said he was nothing to look at. He was not much to look at, meaning he wasn't a good-looking man either. So he didn't have the Barry Gibb hair and the, from the Bee Gees,
Sorry, I've just got
totally.
I got visions of what did you do that for?
That's the Jesus I grew up with. That was the Jesus I grew up with. He was like blonde. Does that make sense? He had that feathered hair. Like, he looked like he was just walking out, like, in his beautiful sandals and his white tunic. Like, honestly, the Middle East is sandy and dirty. Imagine what it was like 2,000 years ago.
Exactly.
It would not have been pretty. Okay, he had nowhere to lie his
poo between his toes and his flip-flops and everything.
Exactly. He had nowhere to lie his head. He had no house. He had no home. Right? So, like, he would have been the people. He would have been the people that you guys hate. He would have been the people that you guys hate. He slept with, I'm not saying have sex, but he laid in a room with 10 other men. I'm sure they cuddled. Or the 12 disciples, I'm sure they cuddled at night to keep warm. Does that make sense? All that kind of stuff. They would have had to undress in front of each other, and all that kind of stuff. His 12 disciples is, he's the man that you guys would hate right now. He hung out with prostitutes. He was the man you guys would hate. Like, to me, so like I don't understand. Like my brain just goes when sorry, I am going off on when I told you, Mitch, I was going to. There's going to be a few people.
But then, if you look at the evolution of human beings, if you look at us as we are, you look at the evolution of beings. So we're taking it right back to when people started moving around the world. So there was less water, blah, blah, blah. Places are moving around. So the original human being has been traced back to somewhere like South Africa. So we originally started off life all coloured skin. You know, the human beings, us as we are.
The only reason they're different colored skin is I'm born in Canada, okay? So my genealogy is like Scottish and English. We're in places that we don't get sun, okay?
Don't get sun.
Like,
you don't need to have that pigment to stop you burning.
So then you're from like Africa, India. Do you know what I'm saying? Aboriginals in Australia. It's hot. You know what I'm saying? And so over the generations and the DNA and all that, you're going to get the melatonin is a different, it changes.
Yeah, the skin pigment changes so you don't burn. I mean, you look at people, you know, that sit in the sun all the time. They go to sunbeds, they sit in the sun. Their skin is permanently tanned and they don't burn when they sit in the sun or work in the sun because their skin has got to that color. That's why people tan, isn't it? Because they're in the sun. So it's right in front of people's faces, but yet they still have this issue. The reason why we've gone white is because we're in places that ain't that sunny.
Well, we're still acting.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't care if you're white, black, gay, straight, bi, trans, blue, green. I don't give a shit if you're like a decent person, and if you know, work from that heart and you're just not hurting anybody. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Like I just don't.
We're almost still acting like we're Christopher Columbus getting off of the ship.
Yeah.
And seeing a whole, like, it would be scary to see a whole new culture. Does that make sense? When you've never seen that, like, never knew anything else existed in your life but white people or whatever like you, right? So yes, and they're running around shooting bows and arrows and living a very different life. Does that make sense? That would be scary. Just like if aliens came down and they're like lizardy creatures or whatever, I think a few of us would be like, whoa, at the beginning, until we realize, oh, they've got good hearts and they're.
But that's a survival mode. That's a natural human being.
But we're not there
self-protection.
Anymore.
No, we're not there anymore.
However, I don't know how many years ago, but you're talking tons of years ago. We should be beyond this.
Exactly. It just made me wonder, with that medium I was talking about, I would really wonder how they would perceive a message if, say, a trans person did link with them for a family member. Would they actually give the same level of respect and care and love, or would they actually not give that message? It makes me wonder, actually, like, what would they do?
Do you think a trans spirit would even want to connect with someone like that? Maybe they would, to show them. Maybe they would try to show them the love, I guess, or
yeah, maybe. And I think, you know, if someone's that desperate about wanting to just get their message to a loved one, sometimes the medium, the person they're sort of having to use, if that is what's being presented as the voice box, they're just going to use them, aren't they, sort of thing.
So I suppose, technically speaking, then, if that person then would give them the message because they're working at that time. But
would they? I don't know, because if their values of being, like, you know, sort of transphobic were so strong, would they just not acknowledge that?
Would they let that go over? Would they let that go over, or would they stay professional and give that message?
It does make you wonder, doesn't it?
Can I ask a question? This is something that I struggle with, and I think this is where the anger comes from when I get like this. And this might be my own prejudice. I'm sorry. I'm working through it. My brain is going to have a stroke, actually, because I have a hard time with this stuff. I really do. I really do. My prejudice is, why would spirit even work with these people that are so bigoted?
But I was thinking that when we were talking earlier on, I was thinking, why would I was thinking the same thing. Why are they in that position?
I feel like spirit
in that position.
Okay, so I feel like spirit bring that through, or allow that connection to continue, to educate, to show them these are just
Okay.
people. These are just normal, everyday today people. The vibration, the frequency of love that they carry, that they hold for their family members is exactly the same to this cluster of white people or straight people or whatever the taboo subject matter is. I think like spirit allow these people to still link and they can be good mediums, but I think there's a lot of personal life stuff that they can take from it as well, because
So spirit is teaching them. So it's their path, and
yeah,
spirit is taking them on their path and enabling them to do this work
that's from
so
my
that they
perspective.
can
That's
learn.
what
Yeah,
I
yeah, no,
think.
I understand that. Yeah, that's good answer to a question that I was thinking as well, Lucy. Yeah, I can see that.
Well, because yeah, it fits in with I believe spirit loves all. Believe spirit wants to communicate with all, but I have a hard time with this particular group.
Mm.
I really do. Especially when they say they're spiritual. I really struggle. I
Mm.
really, really struggle. Yeah.
Well,
I
it's
mean,
interesting.
And maybe that's
I'm
part
gonna
of my
throw that
learning
out.
journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Maybe
mean,
that's part of my
I'm
learning
gonna
journey.
probably throw that out there and upset a lot of people. But C of E, I find they. I've had experience with people that are C of E, Church of England,
Okay, Church of England.
and
Sorry.
Church of England. Yeah, that are supposed to be the most spiritual people in the world. But again, there's racism, homosexuality. They're anti-homosexual. You've got this Christians, and they're supposed to be spiritual, and they're the biggest voice ever, and they're doing what this person up north is doing. They sit there and say, oh, but everybody, God loves everybody, but you've just sat there and say you don't like homos, you don't like
That's why I
gays.
said this has bothered me. This like
Mm,
Mm.
mm,
since like my young Christian days, where I saw in my like it was spirit, but I put it on as because I was in a Christian environment that
mm,
it was in that culture. And they
mm,
showed me that like they love everyone. Like and it was
mm,
so like I said, a cold glass of water going down in me on this parched, dry land that just didn't know that love, but I could feel it for everyone too, not
mm,
just
mm,
me in that moment,
Yeah.
but
mm,
everyone.
mm,
And I remember watching TV, and some people are going to freak about this. And I've had people freak about this in the past, but I was 14 and I was watching the news. And it was when Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested for all the killings, right? And he came out into court. And I felt from spirit so strong how much they loved that man and how hurt his life was and how hurt he was and how he had gone like down a very warped,
mm,
warped
mm,
path. But I could feel spirit's love for
mm,
the man, not for what he did, but for the man. Does that make
Mm.
sense of who
mm,
he is as a spirit himself in this worldly form?
mm,
Yeah, it's almost moving
And
the behavior to us to one side, isn't it? And I think that's maybe what they do when they allow some of these people
mm.
that are quite racist or homophobic to still work with the mediumistic link. They're moving that behavior to one side, but they're still bringing that channel of
Love, yeah, through. Do you think
yeah,
they're using that like that they moved it to one side and they're overpowering with love to enable him to heal his traumas and problems? Do you think it's that type of pattern? That when spirit loves somebody that much, even though they've done some really bad things, they move that aside and overpower them with love and healing to enable them to try and heal a little bit or mend a little bit. Do you think it's that?
I have a person, yeah, but I'll go even further back. I have my personal belief, and I have no foundation for this, so I'll only know if science proves it or when I pass on and spirit lets me know for sure. But it just totally resonates with me, and it's healed me. Is this that we picked our lives before we came here, and that pisses some people off. Okay, that I'll put that right out there.
mm,
And there are some souls that do some awful things here on Earth. Does that
Mm,
make sense?
mm,
But they actually come from our spirit realm on the other side. And it's for things to change, for things to be shook up on this earth. And they're actually, okay, I'm going to be very bold in saying this. they're what they do is shit here, okay? Don't get me wrong. It's really shit. But if you take it of them being known in history for being shit for history, it's quite brave as a soul to take that on and go, okay, I guess I'll do it. It makes me sick to my stomach, but I'll do it. Does that make sense? And so out of bad, sometimes things need to be shaken up. Does that make sense for things to change for good?
You're talking about spirit and soul putting things down to create a sequence for us to make sure that humanity doesn't go and repeat itself, that type of thing, or make humanity aware that I was thinking, I know it's probably going to be a trigger, but I was thinking Second World War and all that entailed.
That's what yeah. So like Hitler would be one and all his minions.
Yeah,
does that make
so
sense?
it wouldn't happen again. So we would be aware of it being flagged up further down the line, or that humanity wouldn't make the same mistake again. And I just wanted to point out that not everyone in the C of E are anti-gay. I've got some lovely friends that wouldn't even think about it, to be fair. Not everybody's like that.
So this is my belief system that we picked, and we've had numerous lives before. Does that make sense? And so I might have been one of those people that have shooken up
society. Yeah, I'm quite sure that that my little Oscar might have actually been Hitler in a life before. Maybe that's why he's come back as a dog this time round, because maybe he has to sort of learn all the stuff that he maybe inflicted on somebody else before. Who's to say? Who's to know?
Yeah. And so like World War II, awful. Auschwitz, awful. Okay? But the response of humanity out of that, we realize the minorities can't be treated like that. Or have we learned our lessons? It still sprouts up. Does that make sense? So now we're going through it again, where
because it's not been learned. Yeah,
it hasn't been learned to its fullest. And we're in the age of Aquarius now. We're just on the very cusp. Okay, in the age of Aquarius. Please forgive me. Don't know how long it goes on for. I think a couple thousand years, but we're just changed over. And the age of Aquarius is about love for all, is about one world, is about one kind of us all taking care of each other and just loving each other and everyone being equal in a sense because you're human, right? That's kind of the basis of the age of Aquarius. Well, to get to that, I think we're going to have to see how shit we really are in our mindset, in our and things. So like, for instance, now when I thought, oh, the age of Aquarius is happening, it's going to happen. And then we voted in, I don't want to get political, but we've voted in some people, the world's voted in some people where it's coming to a head of we're going back to old times. We're having belief systems like we did in World War II. We're having where people are like, this is my country and you're not allowed in my country and we're going to get rid of it. And it's not just America. We hear it here too, and it's turned into these borders and we're going to charge you more. And it's like, all of a sudden now we're all very isolated. Right. And that's the opposite of the age of Aquarius.
But like you say, it's having to bring that shadow stuff first to be understood, to be processed, to be acknowledged. I mean, we've seen it recently. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but we've seen it recently within some of the community stuff in the last couple of years of things, misuse of power, people doing some really awful stuff that you would have never. And it's just come to the surface. But again, is there a deeper piece to that on some level? Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does make you wonder.
Towers. Yeah. I think if you were to look at like tarot, the story of tarot, we're in real tower moments right now of shaking the shit up, and maybe that's why Spirit has called me to start like working with people on loving themselves, really cultivating that foundation inside themselves, because I'm not saying awful things are going to happen, but it's shaky out there. Does that make sense? And it's coming down to that foundation that we have to be strong in ourselves, and not a false strong, not a, oh, I'm strong, you get, we all do that at times, but that real like, I'm okay. I'm okay.
I mean, I think, sort of picking up on what Mitch said about there's things come to light that make us step back as spiritual people, where we come across people that are spiritual people, and then you hear there's something else going on. I I think we find it really hard to deal with, because I think personally, when I've there's been a couple of things that have gone on, and when I've heard things that have gone on, you sit there and you've met that person, and then you hear, you think, oh yeah, they're really good, they're in the circle, they're with the tribe, they're this, they're that, you think, oh yeah, they're really nice, and you've known them for some time, and then you hear this and you think, oh my God. And I wonder whether or not, I don't know, with myself personally, I sit there and think, one, how have they managed to get to that point working spiritually? Two, what is there a subconscious thing going on underneath? And three, how did I miss that? Why did I not pick up on what was going on underneath? Why? And then you feel a little bit guilty, don't you? You feel a little bit like, why did I not notice that? How did they manage to pull the wool over our eyes working on a spiritual level?
But see,
And
I find that, to me, just confirms the fact that we are working on that spiritual level, because we're just trying to see the
the good in
best, or
everybody.
the
Yeah,
genuine
yeah.
in somebody. Even if we get like a gut feeling or a warning, very often sometimes we listen
Poo,
to it, but a lot of the time we're like,
most
oh,
of we
it's
poo-poo
just
it.
me.
They're
Yeah, and
all
we
right.
leave it to one
They're
side.
nice people.
Yeah, we want to try and see beyond that or whatever. Or sometimes we might have
Mm,
heard something, but we just want to find out for. I mean, I'm very much like I hear lots of things about lots of people, but I like to see firsthand. So unless something comes up firsthand, I still try to give people the benefit of the doubt. But there
the
have
doubt.
been times when like I just have felt, no, this person's not good, and I will shut it down if I get that overwhelming feeling. But I
Mm,
think that, to me, I don't see that as like a negative thing. I think it shows that you are working from that true spiritual principle of
mm.
giving everybody that fair chance until they fuck it up for themselves.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I think that's the thing. I think once they actually show themselves to you, that you see what's going on, like you say, first-hand evidence, or a definite no, you hear from a very reliable source rather than whispers on the wind. Um, and then you shut it down. But yeah, I always find, not this happened very often, but when it has happened, I do question myself. I do sit there and go, but like you say, I, like you guys, always see the best in people, always, you know,
But I think that spirit giving that person that opportunity to have that experience, and what are
yeah,
they? How are they going to choose? Which wolf are they going to feed? The light or the dark? Essentially,
Mm.
which will
Well,
yeah,
create the
yeah,
outcome.
I'm
yeah,
going to talk
true.
about my life.
Go for it.
Lots of people hide in spirituality.
Mm,
They're also hiding because they want also help, but they don't want to ask for help. Does that make sense? They don't want to admit to the shadow.
yeah.
So my ex-husband, who I was with for 10 years, how I got to England, um, we were heavily involved in the church. He worked his way up quite high in stuff like AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous. He worked his way up in SA, which is Sexaholics Anonymous. He helped a lot of people he was really looked up to in the church, and it was quite a big community. Okay, we're talking 1,000 people or more
Mm,
in this community. And I always knew in the back of my mind something wasn't right, but then I thought I was the awful person for thinking
okay.
that. And I had, anyway, I had a lot of issues going on in my 20s and a lot of panic attacks, a lot of bad dreams, a lot of, yeah. And the church looked at me as like, you're the bad wife, right? And I didn't, I just always had this, and I never knew where it was coming from. And basically, in one day, I found out for the last that my ex-husband, he was 15 years older than me too. So from the age of 18, and at this point in time, he would have been in his 40s. By the way, um, he had a sex problem, sexaholic problem, where he would sleep with anything, and pay, and some of it wasn't good. And there was pedophilia, there was gay, there was trans, there was female prostitutes, there was everything you can think of under the sun. The darker, the better. What I mean
Okay.
by
Mm,
darker, the lower vibration, the better for him. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
So he got a buzz
and
from sort of the
100%. There was also crimes that I did not know about
Blimey.
that came out, and then the police were also looking into him for some other kind of crimes too. Um, and it's normal to question, Carly, the whole church question
Mm.
when it
Okay.
all came out. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? They are
yeah,
all
yeah,
like,
yeah,
how did I not see that?
yeah.
But then they get angry. Some people get angry because they feel like the wall has been, does that make sense? That fear of their world, like my world was absolutely shattered, okay?
Well,
Like
yeah, yeah.
beyond shattered, beyond shattered. But these people felt like, so I had the actual pinnacle of the earthquake, right? But other people got the tremors. And the tremors scared them because they're like, oh my God, like I didn't see that coming. I thought he was a great guy. I thought he was this. I was that. I was that. And I think genuinely inside, he was a good guy. He had this sickness. It took me a long time to come to that terms. Does that make sense? I
Mm.
think because he was very loving to me in the relationship. There was no abuse of like he abused a relationship. Don't get me wrong. Going out, there was like he drugged me, and I wondered why I was like sleeping all the time. I just
Okay.
and then I'd wake up and he was like, "Oh, I did this and that," and I'm like putting it back. I'm like, "Oh my God," he was like I was like drowsy for days afterwards, and this happened quite a few times, and
Mm.
I never had that. My panic attacks stopped as soon as I decided to leave him, and I gave him a year. I gave him a year. After I found out, I stayed with him for a year,
That
but I
must have been very,
couldn't.
very confusing, I would imagine.
Mm. Mm.
100%. I had panic attack after panic attack, but the church was like, you're going to be the miracle couple. He's going to be healed, and you're going to be the miracle couple that you'll be able to share your story. And because I had that heart that I wanted to work for spirit, I thought it was totally wrong to leave my partner. And so when I finally came to the crux, I said to him, if I find out anything more by such a date, and about 2 days before that date, Spirit brought a bunch of stuff forward about the pedophilia and the gay and all that, because I thought it was just prostitutes, and then it was loads of other stuff that I just went, I can't do this. And it was like the biggest relief off of me.
Mm.
Mm.
But then I felt like I failed Spirit. And now I realize that relief was actually spirit going, you got it. We're in the
Mm.
energy flow that you need to be in. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Your body
You
can work.
kind of became
But,
aligned almost, didn't you, really?
but because my culture said it's wrong to divorce, it's wrong to leave them, you stay no matter what, you made those vows. I actually thought that spirit was my culture, and I had no connect to my body. Does that make sense? So I felt extremely guilty for feeling such a relief. But now years later, I'm like, oh my God, that was spirit just like going, you're free.
Mm.
Mm.
You're free. So now when I feel relief, I know it's spirit going, you made the right choice. Or if I feel that peace, spirit's like, but I never, peace to me was the opposite. Oh, it's hard to explain. It was so confusing.
Mm.
So
Mm.
confusing how the culture works. And
Mm.
so these people, what was I on about? I wanted to share that about the hiding. Does
Mm.
that make sense?
Mm.
And how it is like as an outsider, it is quite alarming when you're in contact with someone and they're living a totally, we all assume that people are on the same page as us and living a life that's
Mm.
quite open and
Mm.
like for me, what you see is what you get. I'm sure people think I'm doing dirty, dark secrets and this and that, and I'm not. Like I am so fucking boring and vanilla. It's not even a joke. Okay, like, like I don't have
Except when she's
any.
chasing me around for sex or whatever.
Exactly, exactly. But
Wanted,
I
wanted
make
you
that
to
well known.
wanted you
I
to
put it
show her
even
your
on your
mug
Facebook.
so
I
she could
told you
look
I
at your
wanted it.
groin.
I even put it openly on your Facebook, Mitch.
I
I
know, and I've
wanted to
still
have a
had people.
naked witch's ruin. I wanted to have a naked witch's ruin chorus with you, and you said it had to be private one-on-one. You weren't willing to do it in a public forum with the rest of them. So
But that's how that's
that's
what I
all
love about.
joking.
Yeah, that's what I love with our banter. We're so comfortable with that we can even put it on in a professional thing, and it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
I think that's quite powerful to be able to do that and know it's just a joke.
yeah, yeah. And I love that. Does that make sense? Because that's just freedom in my eyes. I look at that and that's
Yeah,
freedom. to be able to
Exactly.
joke and cross the line and know that this person's not going to take it offensively because it's not meant offensively. It's just meant to go, like
Yeah.
to make people go.
Yeah.
But anyway,
And that's because Mitch is relaxed in who he is as a person. So if you
yeah,
were, yeah,
he's my safe,
exactly,
and
and he's
I
very
feel
confident,
relaxed that he's my safe
and
person. That
you're
I
relaxed
know he's
as a
not going to
person.
take any of that to heart. Does that make
No,
sense? He knows that,
no.
and like Colin knows, it means
It means nothing.
like
It's
yeah.
the
If
banter.
anything,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make Mitch have shrinkage. Okay, like if anything, if I it will invert. Okay, like
How did we get down this rabbit hole?
his nipples and everything will just invert. Everything will go in. And Colin more I worry about.
Oh dear, oh dear. Oh, I didn't even know how to
I
recover from
didn't expect
that.
that at all.
What I thought, I'm gonna like move it back on course. What I did think
Yes,
was
please do.
what was quite interesting. What you said, Carly, though, is when these people
Oh, fucking hell.
that we've become quite close to, and then, or not become close to, but we see at the regular events and everything else, and
Yeah,
then we know
yeah,
this
yeah.
other side or this other story. It does make you question, when do they have time to do it? How do they have time to do it? Because they've been sitting next to me all day or whatever, and it's like that I find quite confusing.
Yeah, I just, yeah, I don't, I don't even think, we can put an answer on that. There's obviously, because that's out of our thought pattern.
Yeah,
That's out
because
of
it's
our,
not in our energy, is it?
it's not in our energy. It's not in our thought pattern. It's not in our mindset. That's the word I was trying to find. I don't think we can actually comprehend how it gets to that, or how to have the time and the energy or whatever, or the train of thought that even goes down that, because we cannot take it into our mindset, because we are not that way. That energy doesn't resonate with us. So it's
Another, yeah. Oh, sorry, Carlin.
go on, carry
I'm
on,
getting
love. You're
excited.
itching. Go on, get
Another
excited,
thing that
Lucy. Go,
Spirit,
go.
while you were talking, Spirit was just showing me about how, like you said, where do they have the time to do this? And I asked my ex-husband that, like, when, when did this happen? And like, gay sex can happen very quickly. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to be. It's not a romantic, the gay sex I'm talking about that he had is not a romantic thing. We're
Yeah,
talking
like the sort of rough, quick sort of like pants down
yeah,
and yeah.
nameless. Like I remember seeing him wink at a guy one time when we were in Walmart, and then he said I had to go to the
That's
bathroom. He had to go to the
ideal.
bathroom. Yeah, and he said to me, yeah, I went and we gave each other a hand job quickly in the bathroom of Walmart, and then he was back within probably 5 minutes to me. And Spirit was really showing me, like I asked Spirit, and they just answered me now, and I've asked them for years, why? Why did you not bring this out sooner? Why?
Mm,
I was not in a place. I would have probably committed suicide.
Mm.
mm, mm.
Spirit had surrounded me at this point when it came all out with a very, very, you guys know, I doubt they're listening, but they know who they are, with a very good group of about 5 people at a counseling agency that were able to hold me. And I actually found out in the counseling agency.
Okay.
So I had them there to hold me. It wasn't like I just found out on my own with him.
Mm,
Does that make sense?
mm,
I was
Mm.
mm,
around. Spirit made it. It was an awful, awful, awful event. It caused PTSD for a long time, but that's part of my journey too. But Spirit did surround me with the absolute most loving people in that moment in time in my life.
mm.
And if it had been there was one point where I almost left him a couple of years beforehand, and I stayed. Does
Do you
that
think
make
if you
sense?
hadn't, do you think if you'd have left him at that point, he would have got away with it? Do you feel like that was have to
100%.
stay there to like kind of to
And I
expose it?
think Spirit's showing me I had to stay. They made it that I was like, or I had to stay, and they made it that it came out. It needed to come out because it would have just went. And I think it did go. I think he tried to get help afterwards, but it just has gone. Because this is 19 years ago now, 20 years ago now. So
Mhm.
I think he's gone deeper and darker of what I know. Of what I know. I
Gosh.
don't know much. Don't know much at all. But you know, but that's
So he is
his
still alive, is
journey.
he?
He is still alive, yeah. Of what
Mm.
I know, of what I know. Yeah. Yeah. My sister, his sister-in-law is one of my friends on Facebook, and I just he's made it well known that he didn't want contact years ago, and I think it was best for me I didn't have contact years ago
Yeah.
because I even felt so guilty. I tried to stay friends with him after. It's
Oh,
like that's
gosh.
how toxic my life was. Does that make sense? That I didn't understand
Mm.
the boundaries. I thought the nice thing for me to do would be friends when it was just killing me
Mm.
inside, And anyway, we ended talking a long time ago, many, many years ago. And so, but I just said to her, and one time I did contact his brother, and his brother said, "Oh, I know he would want to hear from you. I know he would love to hear from you." And he said, "I'll let him know to contact you." And he never did. So I thought, that's probably for best.
Yeah.
I don't know why I had that weak moment, but that's probably for best with Colin in my life. And I don't want all that. I don't, there's darkness there. Does that make sense? There's
Mm.
a lot of darkness there. But
But
I
that's
asked his
also a
sister-in-law
natural
if he
human
passes
thing,
away.
isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
curious. Oh, believe
Curious.
me, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
curious. Very curious.
Mm.
Yeah, believe me. But yeah, I asked his sister-in-law if he ever passes, can you just let me know? And she's actually let me know like when his mom passed and he's had two brothers pass. She's let me know those two
Mm.
times. Does that make sense? But I've asked her like if he passes, just let me know. And I'll
The
warn
reason
him.
I asked that question is
Yeah.
because I kind of wonder how you would manage him now in your energy as to back then, sort of thing. If you were
I've
to
asked
suggest,
myself that many, many times. I've
mm,
asked myself that many, many times. Would I go back automatically into the old way it was, or would I be able to stand in my power of who Lucy is now, 20
I
years
think,
later?
yeah,
I
I think
think you'd
you'd
be able
kick
to
his
stand in
ass.
your power as you are now. Yeah, I think you really would
What'd you
be able to
say,
stand in
bitch?
it.
I think you'd
Yeah.
kick his ass, but I
Yeah.
actually think you would give him space to talk and want to almost want to like know what happened, or I don't know how to word it. You know, like when like you see in like these films where like there's a murderer and then they get the chance to talk to that person.
Hmm.
I feel it would be that sort of situation in a way.
It's funny how, yeah, I would hope I'd be able to stand in my power. I think he would. I think in the back, he's a very compartmentalized person, and that's why people. Spirit was really showing me while you were talking, Carly. Yeah, of how why didn't people pick up on the energy? You were asking that, like, why didn't I see the energy? What? And I think it would take these people are so compartmentalized. Does that
Mm.
make sense? That they have literally boxes of how their brain contains information. And I asked Jeff that. Sorry, yep, that's better. No, but I asked him that when it happened. Like how did you? And he said he could literally finish the act of whatever he did and go, that never happened.
Oh,
And
really?
come, yeah, and come up to me and be like talking to me and being the normal Jeff. So that where they say energy flows where conscious goes,
Mm.
right? The conscious is turned off. The energy isn't flowing.
That's interesting,
So
and that makes sense to
you
why
don't
me and
get the
Carly would.
energy.
Yeah, that makes sense to why me and Carly would never be able to go into that mindset because we don't have those boxes, do we?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't either. I'm the opposite. My brain is just this open kind of, like it's just like there. And I believe Carly's is kind of the same as mine. Does that make sense? Where we just don't have that. I don't have that ability to compartmentalize. It's very, very tough for me to go, I'm going to take that and put it to one side.
Mm.
Mm.
I've
I
gotten
guess I
better over
can
the
to a
years.
degree because obviously with the spirit work I do, you sort of do have to.
Hmm.
So
Mm.
Yeah. And
whether
that's what I mean.
I'm,
Over the years, I've had to learn to do it. But as
yeah,
a nature of Lucy and how I was raised, the opposite. I was not very good.
Mm.
That was like lacking integrity if you did that. That would be like you're hiding stuff. That's
yeah,
like you're not taking, and spirits really had to show me, no, it's not. You're not hiding anything dirty. You're just taking something that doesn't need to be focused on right now and just putting it to the side. Also, the
Mm.
boundaries thing, and that's what you're talking about, Mitch, is like, we're done our session now and you just
yeah,
leave, like you say at the end, I'm going to leave that with you.
yeah.
Mm.
And you're literally saying the energy now is in your court.
Yeah, you're moving it back to sort of person kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting. To kind of bring it back round, another thing I wanted to very quickly touch upon because I thought it was interesting. Somebody messaged me this morning saying, "What are you doing for Austria?" Because it's the pagan sort of festival, isn't it? You know, whereas we've had obviously Easter and everything else, and the pagan stuff, it's Ostaria or Austria, however you say it. And I was like, no, I'm not doing anything for it. And I think that's what being truly spiritual and being a true witch is about. You can do something if you want to. You can do a great ritual or whatever. But if you don't want to do anything, you know, my altar is all in boxes. So there's no way I'm going to pull it all apart just to sort of put something together. So yeah, but does it
It's
make
holding it in thought, isn't it? It's holding that thought pattern. I mean, I tend to do it around the spring equinox because that feels more right to me. So the spring equinox to me is Ostara or you know, the March hare and the whole thing, and it's first sign of spring. So that's my Easter, technically speaking.
And when is the spring equinox? Is that the 21st
21st of March? Yeah, 20 March.
Oh, so that was got you.
Yeah. So it's actually earlier. But as of all the pagan you know, pagan sort of celebrations and nature celebrations, they were all moved so that the paganism Christianity thing could be made a lot easier. But all the symbols of Easter, so eggs, bunnies, all that malarkey, are all pagan based.
It's funny, isn't it?
Christmas trees are pagan based, aren't they? At Christmas time,
Christmas trees are pagan based. I mean, so
what's the star on a Christmas tree? It's a blanky, you know.
One of them.
Who are the wise men? Who were the wise men? I go back to this all the time. Who were the wise men? They were astrologers. They followed the star. The astrology chart showed them there was going to be a star on that particular night. And there was something magical happening that night, that this baby, they knew there was a baby, the son of God was being born that night. It was in their astrology charts, and they followed the star.
In July. Not in December.
Exactly, that's when they say he was born.
Yeah. So I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Mitch. So I cut
and then
you
there's
off there,
me.
but like, acknowledging it is just perfect.
Yeah. People say, "Are you pagan? Are you a witch? Are you this?" I go, you know what? I'm at the point where I don't define myself as anything because I just do what feels natural for me to do, and that's because I come from that definition background. Does that make sense? Where it pegged me in, and I don't want to be pegged in. So for me, like, you know, some people wish me happy Easter yesterday. I was like, happy Easter. You know, I didn't do anything. We had a roast and I gardened and got sunburned. I didn't go to, I said to Mitch, oh, I think I might, because literally the church, I've never lived so close to a freaking church in my life. It's not even, it's like right here. Okay. Right here beyond this wall. And it's gorgeous. Right. And they put pictures up on our site of our village, because our village is tiny. Okay. It's like not even, I think probably 80 people, 60 people. Like it's nothing.
Oh,
it's
wow.
Tiny.
Nice.
Tiny. But the church is there, and I think 3 people go to the church, of what I've heard. But anyway, and I've become friends with the vicar's wife, okay? Which is a shock. It's a shock to me, okay? A real shock to me. We really like each other.
I think we might have to pay a trip, didn't you, Mitch?
I think so.
But anyway, they put
hats and everything.
They put the pictures up of the church and what it looked like for the Easter thing, and I thought, ooh, I wouldn't mind sitting in the presence of that, because the stained glass was there, you know, and the candles.
Architecturally, churches are beautiful.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah, give
them
their due.
I'll go to church tomorrow. Well, I didn't. The service was at 9:30. I woke up at 10:15, so obviously Spirit wasn't.
You weren't.
It wasn't with you on that one.
No. That's all right. That's all right. But I can still. Before, when I looked at stuff like that and I felt that, I would really beat myself up. Oh, Lucy, you're beyond that.
Yeah.
Because actually, I didn't go to that type of church. I went to a happy clappy church, okay? Like, I went to the ones where they were like, you know, Jesus' name, and, you know, that kind of thing, and real, like, you know.
Oh, well, the ones where everyone's like...
Yeah, 100%. When you see those TikTok videos and they're all, like, jumping around, that's the kind of background I come from.
I had visions of, oh, happy day. Oh,
yeah, that too. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, people with their hands up and shaking and that kind of thing. That's the background I come from.
Happy clappy church.
Yeah. So, you know, so this kind of church is the total opposite. right? Of what I come from. But I'm very, I'm not drawn to I'm drawn to it, I guess. I think it's beautiful, you know? And then
I
like,
must admit, yeah, they are, aren't they? I mean,
I love
architecturally,
doing my candle magic.
they're
Does that make
beautiful. Yeah.
sense? You know, and I love doing, so whatever I feel drawn to, I feel like that's the freedom I have now. And I'm working towards even more and more that spirit calling me to do that.
Mm.
And I think that is what true spirituality is. It's the freedom of not having to do one thing or be one way or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know if we've covered off like our initial thoughts or not, or if we just confused our listeners. I don't know.
Well, probably we're probably confused, Alice, because we were talking about sort of the values and having that mask of coming across as spiritual. Do people have that in their private life? And I think you're entitled to have your own thoughts, but I think if you're working on a professional, maybe if I could talk properly, a professional basis, I think you have to be very aware on what you're putting out there. I think that's the thing, isn't it? But obviously we've then, where we sort of think everybody's all love and light, as Lucy puts it, all rose tinted glasses. We then don't understand or can't comprehend when people come across all love and light, and then underneath it you then discover that there's more sinister stuff going on, or stuff going on that you're like, I mean, there's really nasty sinister stuff that can go on in people's lives, and there's the case of, oh, I just, I don't like somebody because they've got a certain color of skin. So I think if you're on a professional basis, I personally think I love everybody. I love everybody.
See, I don't, but that's okay. But I feel comfortable in that. But I wouldn't harm anybody.
No.
Mitch, you respect that everyone deserves love.
Exactly.
And that's how I feel. I don't love
yeah.
everyone, but I respect that everyone deserves love. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I agree with you there. I mean, there's people that my personalities clash. So there's very few and far between do I have people that personalities clash. There's some people in my array of people that I'm acquainted to, or I'm not acquainted to anymore. I don't like the way they've dealt with situations, because actually it's not very nice. It's nothing nasty, it's nothing bad. It was just their thought pattern on how they've dealt with the situation. And I thought, well, that you're not a very nice person. When you see that person reduce an elderly person to tears, you just sit there and you think, well, you're not actually a very nice person. I don't particularly want to be associated with you. So I don't like everybody. Don't get me wrong. It's not like, but I will give, like you guys, will give everybody the benefit of the doubt. But I think if you're on a
I don't even give the benefit of the doubt. I just know in life they have I can respect that they can be loved and people will love them and that spirit loves them.
Yeah. But they're just not yours.
If they make my nervous system nervous, right?
They're just not your people.
They're not my people, and I've had to learn to listen to my body, and that's my journey. Does that make sense? Learn to listen to what is going on in my body, because I ignored that for so many years, not just with my ex-husband, with everyone that came across my path, that I got burned over and over and got myself into some not good situations.
Definitely. Just let you know, guys, we're on the witching hour, or over the witching hour, actually.
No, blimey. We get carried away with these conversations, don't we? So we've completely confused our listeners to whereabouts where we've gone around back again.
So I think in a nutshell, being spiritual, if you're on camera or off camera, it just treat people as you want to be treated. That's what we always come back to, isn't it, really? Whether you're a witch, whether you're in full kind of God flow, whatever you are, just be decent, treat people how you would want to be treated.
And I think if you're in a position of power, or power is a big word, because power can be
from a community.
If you're looked at, thank you, mate. So if you're looked up to in a community or an event or anything like that, just don't abuse where you are. Just be respectful of what you're doing, and be aware of people listening to you, and valuing what you say, because those people that you're talking to could be in very vulnerable positions. And you look at medieval Europe creating that anti-homosexual status, the Crusades, that's what it was all about, to be fair. Look how much ripple effect that's caused and down through history. Okay, I know it's on a vast scale, but even in a smaller scale, if you're in some standing of some form and you're looked up to, just be very aware of what you're doing, because it could cause the same thing on a smaller scale and could upset and hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Lucy's
spirituality
gone quiet.
Yeah,
I know, because I'm
quiet.
like, that's a big freaking question. What does spirituality mean to me? And I'm just like, it's my life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, I just and it doesn't make me some grand person, because I live a very, very boring life, but I just know, like you guys do, that spirits around me all the time. That I'm loved. That took years. That I'm loved, and that I'm here for some sort of purpose. And it's just doing what the freedom of what my heart says to do, and listening to that, and that brings excitement into my life.
Definitely. I still see you on stage at some point, like being in a comedy club, or I don't know. I really do will. I've been watching quite a few like Canadian and American comics lately, and I just see a place for you amongst those people. I really do. Just crack me up so much.
I love making you crack up.
No, you do. In a good way. You just make me smile. It's cool. It's good. Well, guys,
that makes
do you
me
think
feel
that? Do you feel that's us done? Do you feel like...
I think we're done. So that's lots of love and light for me, Lucy.
Thanks for having us, guys. From Mitch.
See you all soon. Be nice to everybody.
Bye.
Bye for now.